Onision is literally the worst human being that has ever existed on YouTube, though what exactly do you expect from a guy whose claim to fame is this? Since his return 2 months ago, 3 of his 8 videos uploaded have been iterations of his magnum opus. I guess he likes his music how he likes his women. 15 years old. But recently, he's attempted to return to the internet to take down everybody who he believes to have contributed to his downfall, from Blair White to Chris Hansen. It's been pretty embarrassing to say the least. And I'm well aware that many of you won't even know who Onision is, because he is a relic of the past, but don't worry about that because we're going to be covering everything here. Just a reminder, by the way, that we're aiming for 100k by the end of the year, so if you want to like and subscribe and be a part of that journey, then I'd really appreciate that. Speaking of which, I'm actually really happy with the discussion that we, created in the last video, because as touchy of a subject as it was, people handled it really respectfully. The majority of people in the comment section, even though a lot of them disagreed with my points, many of whom were transgender themselves, handled it nicely and kindly told me where they thought I went wrong, and I really appreciate that because that's exactly what I want from this community. I mean, there was one silly wee boy here who doesn't seem to know how grammar works, but other than that, we were good. This video here, by the way, is going to be nowhere near as respectful, and I'm not going to think nearly as much about whether or not to criticize the actions being put on display, because Onision, as I mentioned in the intro, is genuinely, and I mean this, probably the most evil human to come out of YouTube. At least one of the most evil long-running YouTubers. Like, you have people like Smart Schoolboy 9, for example, who, whilst, yes, they did sort of emerge from the internet, they're not, like, OGs by any means. It's like a new thing that is only gonna be a big discussion for a couple months at least, you know what I mean? Onision, however, has been at this for, like, 16 years now, and he's still trudging about like the annoying housefly that he is. I'm just gonna rip the condom off and go in raw here because there are no redeeming factors. He is pure, unadulterated evil. We're gonna start off with a controversy which, believe it or not, is actually the least of our worries when it comes to Onision, and that's the series that he had on his channel where he would rate the bodies of underage girls.
Another girl who looks neither fat nor thick, but instead seems to be well endowed. Thank your genetics. Meanwhile, this person is hella fat. Like, super duper fat.
Yeah. This is a real series that existed on one of the biggest channels on YouTube for years. And as shocking as that may seem to you watching this video because you're a regular person, believe it or not, this wasn't even like a thing back then. People just sort of accepted it. For everyone who thinks the world has gone soft and we should go back to old YouTube, I'm not too sure about that.
And wow, I have never seen a body like this before. I'm gonna say change your diet. I don't have much else to say. You kind of overflow around the belly region, so maybe you're bordering on fat. I'm guessing you're the one-piece bathing suit type of person.
I mean, it is genuinely just shocking. Like, this would never fly on YouTube now, thankfully. The way that it worked was that Onision had a forum somewhere on the internet, I'm not too sure, where girls would submit their bodies for him to rate. Unfortunately for him, there's no age verification at all. All he said, I believe there was a bit on the website that said, oh, you need to be 18 or something, but there was no way of verifying anything. The age of verification on an Onision forum is about as useful as the tick box at the end of a 20-page terms and conditions agreement. And by the way, even if there was a good verification process and you could absolutely confirm that everyone who submitted pictures of their half-naked bodies was over the age of 18, it would still be a really, really strange series to parade about and be like one of the most popular series on your channel. Like, this is a real body of work that someone on the planet was proud of producing.
Regardless, the forum at onision.xyz still states clearly you are not to post inappropriate pictures to the forum. So again, if you have a problem with what I'm doing on this channel regarding body positivity, you can go ahead and review the law and YouTube's policies.
Don't worry, I did catch it. He's claiming this is for body positivity, which we'll get to later. But first of all, when you're mentioning and talking about the rules for the forum, do you not think you may deem it appropriate perhaps to mention that maybe you should only do it if you're over 18? I mean, I personally would rather receive naked photos from a 30-year-old than half-naked photos from a 14-year-old. All I'm saying is if you're talking about the rules on your video, the age thing should come first, and then the appropriateness of the photos should come second. I mean, I know I'm harping on this point a bit, but if you have a series on your channel where you are rating girls' bodies, age should be the first fucking thing on your mind.
You can go ahead and review the law and YouTube's policies, and hopefully come to realize that you're just a bunch of overly sensitive social justice warriors who are attacking something that literally is not wrong. Also, if you have a problem with these body positive videos, and yes, the hard truth is positive, I encourage you to review Twitter and see all the people I've helped with their body image issues.
But also, he claims that it's for body positivity, and he says this on, like, all of the videos. He says body positive in all the videos. He doesn't say age in fucking any of them, from my knowledge. I mean, there's a playlist here of 16 archived videos from this great series he had, and those are only the ones that we have now. There could have been way more. I'm just scrolling through the videos now, and I found this clip. Fuck me, you're not gonna believe this.
Meanwhile, this girl's like 8 out of 10. Yeah, solid 8. But Greg, what if she's 15 years old? Well, last time I checked, we're allowed to have opinions about people. It's not a perverted thing. It's honesty. Okay.
Now that is bloody normal. Well, I can sit here and do the standard commentary thing and go, oh, this is disgusting. I can't fucking believe he would. But you know what it is? We all know it. You know, I don't need to explain why this is bad. And if you think I do, then fuck off. I don't want you on this channel.
This girl looks 14, and it turns out she's 17, you sneaky devil. This girl looks about 13, and I'm right, she's 13. I'd say 29, probably. Whoops, no, 15. What? No, what happened? Seriously.
Okay, we're done. We're done with this series. We're done. You get the idea. Hopefully you understand how awful it is, and how weird Onision is. And like I said, this is nothing by the end of this video, you're gonna be wishing this is all he did, genuinely. One quick note before we move on though, it's very ironic that Onision talks so much about body positivity in these videos, because I watched the documentary series that Chris Hansen made on him, which, by the way, was a fucking awful series, but we'll get more on that later. But either way, here's a clip that I found particularly interesting.
He would put pressure on me about my weight a lot. It was almost like he wanted me to be perfect all the time. He wanted me to be a living doll for him.
What? Onision isn't very considerate in regards to women's bodies? Nah, I never knew that. Anyway, swiftly moving on to every YouTuber with over 1 million subs' favorite pastime, grooming, which is something that Onision has a habitual knack for. We're only really going to be covering 3 of his grooming victims in this video, but there are many more. We're being generous here, trust me. And we'll begin with the most famous one, Sarah. For those who don't know, Onision and his at-the-time wife, Kai, who was also groomed by Onision into a marriage, but we'll get onto that later, collectively groomed a young girl named Sarah back in January of 2019. Now, they had a habit of flying people over state borders to, you know, meet with them and engage sexually with them, but every now and then, for some reason, what made it really weird is that they would actually become the legal guardians of some of these people, mainly those who didn't really have a great home life, and they would use this as some sort of strange way to take the moral high ground at points, when in reality they are literally just grooming them. Now, the actual grooming was way before 2019, but 2019 was when Sarah sort of came to the epiphany that, yeah, she wasn't being treated very well, and the allegations came to light. Now, it doesn't mean much me just saying these things to you, so I'm going to show you as much evidence as I possibly can, but it was a long time ago and a lot of stuff has been deleted, so bear with me if it's a little bit clunky at points. So here's a text conversation between Kai, Onision's ex-wife, and Sarah. Sarah makes it incredibly clear to Kai that she is in fact 14 years old, and Kai, in typical YouTuber fashion, gives the most predatory response that you possibly can. Especially when you consider that something else you can tell from this conversation is that Kai, at this time, was 20 fucking years old, which is old enough to know that 14-year-olds should not be in the age bracket of people that you should be messaging. I don't care how bad Sarah's home life is. It's fucking weird for 2 online creators who are this old to invite a 16-year-old girl over to their house to live with them permanently and become their foster child without having even met them once in person. When Sarah moved, Sarah was 16, Kai was 22, and Onision was 31, by the way. And initially, Kai and Onision were in an open relationship and a 3-way relationship with an additional girl who was 18 years old. And that girl also lived in the house with them. I can't believe this shit. Modern YouTube drama fucking sucks in comparison to this. This is insane! This man tried to return to the internet recently. He thought he'd be welcomed back with open arms. I mean, I'm sure you're already wishing that we could just go back to him rating underage bodies, and trust me, as bad as this sounds, it gets so much worse. You'll be begging to come back to here later on. The 18-year-old who who they were in a three-way relationship with was called Billy, and we'll get onto her later because she is somewhat important. Onision and Kai are basically promising Sarah that if their current three-way relationship didn't work out, then she would be the next Billy. Here's a tweet from one of Sarah's friends saying the house is shady as fuck. I mean, she was so hurt when Haley was talking about going up to visit, she was texting me sobbing from the bath. They had her convinced that she would be the next girl after Billy. I hope she can get out and be happy because this is so unhealthy. Unhealthy is the understatement of the fucking millennia, by the way. Unhealthy is what I'd call a cake. Unhealthy is what I'd call a packet of Digestives biscuits. This goes far beyond unhealthy. Here's a rather famous Twitter thread from Ayari Arenan who says that Sarah herself admitted to me at 15 in Greg's house, Greg is Onision's real name by the way, that she had not only been flirting back and forth with Lainey at some point, Lainey is one of Kai's other names by the way, but they also had romantic discussions at 15. Just because she's 18 now, it doesn't mean they're any less predatory. This girl also claims that Lainey brought Sarah into the bathroom while she bathed, so they were all just contributing and taking part in horrific and predatory activities. Now, I have managed to find some old videos of Onision admitting fault and saying that he could potentially be in a relationship with their 15-year-old foster child.
I think that the Kai's ex and Kai's ex's friend thought that Kai was dating Sarah, so they wanted to like be jealous and weird and lash out, and they were wrong. Because, you know, I'm not talking about what happens in however much time. I don't know what the future holds, but we're not dating Sarah.
I don't know what the future holds.
Okay, so I have managed to find an old VOD from Lainey making a response to the allegations, and here's that.
Yeah, I know Ayala said a lot of things that were very untrue, and she is continuing to say things that are untrue, and it's super, super unfair. Where's the screenshot? Where's proof? I already asked that.
Where's the proof? I don't know. Maybe this screenshot of you tweeting Sarah, I'm grooming you nicely. And by the way, if there's anyone watching this video who has the fucking nerve to say, she's joking, she must be joking. Yeah, that's a great joke, that was from fucking Bill Burr, that one. Sometimes you get like a classic knock-knock joke or a yo mama joke, but nah. This here is my favorite genre of comedy. I just love it when adults joke about grooming their fucking foster children. Yes! Comedy is not dead, and whoever told you it is a liar. And you know what it is? Making jokes about grooming isn't even necessarily the worst thing in the world if you're a clean-cut guy and it is a joke and everyone knows it's a joke. But when you're actually a groomer and participating in very shady, shitty behavior, like inviting 14-year-olds over to your house and engaging in sexual conversations with them, you kind of lose the right to make jokes like that. It's very uncomfortable because you actually are doing those things. It's like if I'm having a conversation with you and you're annoying me and I sit there like, oh, I'm gonna fucking kill you, man. It's like, that's not exactly the most worrying thing in the world because I'm not a convicted killer. But if a mere month ago I was just arrested for shooting up an orphanage, then that joke suddenly becomes a lot less funny and a lot more uncomfortable. On screen now is some more of the proof that Lainey so graciously desired to see some of. Because she's fair and impartial, she doesn't want baseless accusations, so for her sake, and for her sake only, here's the evidence. Even if there was nothing going on, you should not be making sexual jokes like this to a minor when you're 20 fucking years old. Is that controversial to say? It shouldn't be.
Said that something has happened with her, or I did something with her, or I cuddled in bed with her.
To be fair, that is a ridiculous accusation. How would anyone know if you were cuddling in bed with her unless they were like watching through a window, or there was, you know, video proof of it happening?
Has Sarah seen you or Kai naked? As an adult, definitely.
I'm gonna lose my voice here. This is mental. Like, this is mental!
Some of you may know, my wife and I have had moments where we're not necessarily on great terms with each other, and in those moments, my wife sometimes needs a friend to talk to. Hugh, Sarah, the girl my 19-year-old wife at the time, met only on the internet when Sarah was 14.
Wow, what a great response, Onision. That changes everything. What a great justification. I mean, I know me, as a 20-year-old man, when I'm seeking support or I'm having a bit of a rough patch in whatever relationship I'm in, I go to a 14-year-old for emotional support. Like, you lack so much self-awareness and maturity to think that this is an acceptable thing to say. You don't go to 14-year-olds for emotional support when you're a fully grown adult. It is fact that Lainey was talking to a 15-year-old about her marital issues. That is weird. Really really fucking weird. That's like some Colleen Ballinger level type shit. For the record, all these videos that I'm finding have been taken from like various YouTube videos and archives and stuff. They've all been taken down because they're full of shit, and now Onision's running with the myth or the story that he was actually raped by Sarah, which is equally as crazy as everything we've been talking about so far. It's like, if that story is so true and you believe you're innocent, why have you deleted every fucking video that you've ever made defending yourself? Is it because you're scared you might say some things accidentally that contradict the story that you've gone with now? Because I certainly think that's what it is. I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but it's very difficult not to when there's this much stuff going on. And it's not like this marriage was good even when they were, you know, in a good place, by the way, because they wouldn't argue in person. They would argue publicly on Twitter, even though they lived together. One time, Lainey was excited that a singer that she liked had, like, mentioned her or something, and that singer had blocked Onision, so Onision was very angry about this. He was very cross and jealous that Lainey would be happy about something. So instead of talking it out like regular fucking people, they decided to tweet publicly at each other and argue. They are at most, like, 2 doors away from each other, by the way. Why are you doing this on Twitter? If my dad had cooked me some rice that I thought was a little bit undercooked, I would not begin my next YouTube video by going, oh, by the way, Baba, your rice last time was shit, and like, we need to get that sorted, because if you want me as your son to, like, stay loyal to you, you're gonna have to learn to cook your fucking rice. It's a private thing. I'll just tell him in the gaff, in the moment, that I didn't like his rice very much. Why are you making this public? It's so odd.
You, Sarah, the girl my 19-year-old wife at the time met only on the internet when Sarah was 14. My wife is now 21 and Sarah is 16. So Sarah decided to fly herself up to visit my wife.
Why are you talking about it like that? You know what you're doing. Sarah flew herself over, right? That implies it was her own will, it was her decision, and none of you had any input regards to that. She's 16 years old. You think she just did it on a whim without asking yous first? What about this message where Sarah says Kai wanted her over for the baby shower? It's just classic manipulation tactics to separate yourself from whatever wrongdoings you've done. And maybe it worked 5 or 6 years ago when response videos were a lot less made fun of, but now we've seen like every trick in the book, and it's very easy to tell when people do stuff like this. Here's a tweet of Sarah calling herself jailbait, which, as someone who is being groomed, is a very disturbing and alarming thing to tweet. Here's her retweeting something that I'm not going to be reading out loud. Here's her thirsting over Kai, which just shows more of a power imbalance, like she is a fan as well as an underage girl. Here is a bunch of messages and tweets that Lainey is proudly putting out to the world because she is so proud that she has managed to swindle this underage girl into shagging her and having a crush on her, basically. Look at how public she is making it that she is glad Sarah likes her so much.
That is literally what some people are assuming. And it's very clear that this assumption is more so based on the fact that my wife is bisexual, which kind of comes off as biphobic. If you've ever met someone who's bisexual, there's a good chance that you're aware it's pretty annoying when somebody automatically assumes that you want to have sex with everyone just because you're bi. I mean, if you're a heterosexual male, let me ask you this. Do you want to have sex with every woman you've ever seen? Your grandma? Really?
To use someone's status as a minority to excuse them of all wrongdoings in the situation, especially when that wrongdoing is grooming, is genuinely disgusting. I will say though, I'm going to keep that one in the locker for when I get exposed for some of my dark history. If there's any YouTubers out there that hate me, come at me. I dare you, because I have the ultimate excuse at hand. Oh, they're only criticizing me because I'm an oppressed wee brown boy. I didn't eat that child. I didn't punch that dog. Are you saying that all brown people like to punch dogs? Ugh. That is awful. I can't believe you'd say something like that. I mean, don't get me wrong, there is a lot of homophobia on the internet, and a lot of biphobia as well, but I mean, it's just not an excuse here at all. Here's a really important text message from Sarah asking people to delete messages and screenshots to, I guess, lessen the accusations of grooming or shady behavior that the Onision household will have been being accused of. The reason that this is important is because later on in the video, you're going to see Onision use the claim that Sarah admits guilt at certain points, or admits to doing bad things, or admits that they weren't actually doing anything wrong in the household. But you have to remember that Sarah was a 16-year-old girl here, a naive person who was being groomed and exploited by people way older and more experienced than her when it comes to just life and housing and being an adult. It's very easy for adults like Onision to manipulate girls like Sarah, and that's why Sarah's being so defensive of them at points. This will be important later, I promise.
I'm not talking about what happens in however much time. I don't know what the future holds, but we're not dating Sarah.
I don't know what the future holds, but we are currently not dating Sarah is not something you want to say as a man in your 30s about a girl who is under the age of fucking 18 or 20 at this point. How do you don't see how weird that is? I'll link a video that goes way more in depth about the whole Sarah saga in the description from like when it was actually a thing that was happening currently. So click on that if you're interested, but we're gonna move on right now. And we're gonna be moving on to Onision's wife at the time, Kai/Lainey, who we've already talked about quite a bit, but we're going to move on to how she was groomed by Onision and how she has essentially become a predator who is also a victim, which is something we see a lot with, you know, predators. They tend to have been groomed themselves, which doesn't make it any better, obviously, but it is just the thing that happens sometimes. After all the proof that had come out that she herself was a predator, she basically left the internet. She's only come back now with Onision with all the legal stuff that's going on, but once again, we'll get to that later. Now, Kai says that she discovered Onision during the legendary video of Onision kissing Shane Dawson, which I won't show here because it's very clear that Shane is uncomfortable with the fact that he is being pressured to do what he has to do in the video. Like, he very clearly does not want to kiss Onision, and I can't exactly fucking blame him for that. Anyway, later that year, Onision was having issues with his fiancée at the time and broke it off with her, to which Kai tweeted this: "I like when Onision is single because it allows me to daydream that I actually could have a chance." Now, just to be clear, Kai would have been 16 at this point in time, and I'm only showing it to establish that Kai was in fact a huge fan of Onision, which of course makes the power imbalance way more dramatic. Like, she wasn't just a lot younger than him, but she was also a big fan of him. So Onision would have held a significant amount of power over her. This tweet here was their first ever, like, point of communication. Onision was sad and lonely and single after his dramatic breakup with his at the time girlfriend or wife, Adrian, I don't fucking know. And he tweets, "Soulmate, where are you?" like the romantic that he is. And Lainey, the 17-year-old girl, responds with, "I'm right here, Onision." To which Onision deems it appropriate to privately DM her, saying, "You really think you're my soulmate? If so, ellipses, what makes you feel this way?" You can't exactly control whether or not people want to be with you, even if they're young. Like, you can't control people tweeting at you. What you can control is whether or not you choose to respond to them and humor whatever they want to fucking do as naive young girls. You should not be DMing them in any capacity, probably, let alone a romantic one where you're clearly intending to initiate something akin to a relationship at the very least. Lainey puts up a screenshot of that DM conversation, claiming it was one of the most nerve-wracking moments of her life. Once again, just making it clear how much of a fan she was of him. Like, she would have done anything. She was that big of a fan. It's just a fucking grim, disgusting situation all around, especially when you know, in hindsight, that Lainey became a predator probably because of this. In her mind, this was a normal thing that was great for her. She was finally able to date someone who she looked up to, someone who she idolized, and she must have been loving it, not knowing how much fucking harm it was actually causing her, psychologically and also just morally in general. I mean, this situation was so bad that the first time they met in person was Kai's high school graduation day. I don't know how, if you're Onision, no red flags appear in your mind. Oh, where was your first date, Mr. 30-year-old man? If you're a 30-year-old whose first date with a girl was at their prom pretty much, and you've only been together 2 years, there's something wrong there. It's a bold statement from me, I know. Like, I don't know if a lot of you will share that opinion, but I personally believe that there's something wrong there. Just go bowling or mini golf or go to the cinema like any other fucking weird couple. Just be sure that the movie you're watching at said cinema isn't too gory because she's not fucking old enough to see them yet. I'd say go for drinks. That's a pretty normal first date, but then you forget that Lainey isn't even old enough to fucking drink yet! Okay, next we're going to be talking about what is, in my opinion, Onision's worst case of grooming. Because yes, the two that I've just mentioned are the good ones, so to speak. This one was with a girl named Shiloh. You can watch the full interview on, the Chris Hansen YouTube channel. It's this video right here. It'll be on screen right now, but I will basically just be summarizing the points made here so that you guys get the quick rundown of how awful this relationship was. Shiloh, just like every other girl that Onision groomed, was also a big fan of him beforehand. At 16 years old, she emailed Onision saying how much of a fan she was and how much she wants to be with him. Shortly after this initial conversation, before they had even met by the way, Onision had messaged Shiloh at age 25, if I hadn't made that clear already, telling her that he was going to divorce his longtime wife Sky to be with her, a 16-year-old, before they even knew each other. I mean, admittedly, maybe his wife Sky was a little bit too old for him, like, I don't know, 20, 21, ugh. fucking shriveled up raisin at that point, man. All the money she spent on the arthritis pills to help with her brittle old bones must have gone to Onision's bank account, and he was probably feeling it, so I don't blame him for wanting to break up with her and get with this 16-year-old wee lassie. It's important to note that Shiloh, despite being a 16-year-old at the time, was already a very successful musician who had actually gone platinum in Canada. As a result of this, she was touring a lot, and Onision insisted that they meet at a hotel in Pennsylvania for their first meeting. And the reason he insisted Pennsylvania specifically is because of the age of consent laws. Because yeah, by the way, Onision knew all of the age of consent laws for all the states by heart. That's pretty fucking normal, right? I don't think I would even allow somebody who took the time to learn the age of consents of all the states by heart in my circle of friends. If I had a friend who was friends with a friend of someone like that, I don't think I'd even fucking associate with them. Just the fact that you took that much time out of your life to study that weird piece of information is very troubling to me. And I'm not alone in this, because the hotel that they did end up going to actually called the police on Onision because it looked so fucking dodgy. The police, unfortunately, couldn't really do anything because Onision had skirted around the laws so creepily and successfully. Much like Kai, Shiloh's family were also disgusted by the prospect of any of this happening, but much like Kai as well, Shiloh was okay with this and thought that her family were being overprotective, because that's what happens when you're being fucking groomed. They then got a flat, or an apartment I guess, in Canada, and Shiloh says that they would have sex like 8 times a day. I also find it interesting that in the interview that I'm referencing, Shiloh never ever says something along the lines of, oh, we had sex, or we did something together. It was always, he had sex with me, which I think is very telling, especially because she also states that she didn't really have the option to say no. This was obviously very painful, not only because of the sheer amount of times they were doing it, but also because for whatever reason Onision forced her to shave her hair off in the middle of the act. Interestingly, this tactic of making people shave their hair off is like Onision's anime finishing move. It's actually a staple in his toolkit, like he uses it a lot to intimidate and embarrass the people that are close to him. I've actually found this video here where it's pretty clear that he does use this as some sort of weird manipulation tactic.
You like it.
Not in this context.
I'm gonna pull your hair again, and you're gonna like it.
You can't tell me what I will and will not like. Ow!
You could be bald and I'd still be attracted to you.
Jesus.
I'm not done, I'm just checking my stuff.
Here's a video of Shiloh crying because her head has been shaved, and Onision is recording her mental distress while she tells him to stop recording because she is very uncomfortable with it.
Hey.
Get the camera off of me, I swear to God. He has a camera on me. He has a camera on me right now. Get the camera off of me. Why do you have a camera on me?
Here's one of those videos in question. I will give a fair warning, it is a video of Onision violently licking her bald head, so if you don't want to see that, then skip ahead a couple seconds. And by the way, what makes it weird is that Onision isn't even attracted or interested in bald hairstyles.
I hope you're happy. You completely destroyed all of my pride. You told me to get a tattoo saying I'm a liar, like a tramp stamp. You told me to shave my head. You told me to dye my hair green, shave off my eyebrows, and get an ugly tan. Like, is that not abusive to you?
Like, there are some guys who prefer girls with less hair. I myself quite enjoy when a girl is bald. I think it really suits some people. But Onision is not one of those people. This is purely a power move. Because if you watch a lot of the videos where he, once again, is rating underage girls, he expresses a lot of disdain and unhappiness with girls who are having their heads shaved.
Girl in all her cuteness thought to herself one day, you know what would be great? Looking like Mahatma Gandhi. Wow, would you look at that? Your parents are officially disappointed.
We've heard stories about him shaving girls' heads. Did he ever do that to you?
No, but he wanted to.
He wanted it.
Officially disappointed.
We've heard stories about him shaving girls' heads. Did he ever do that to you?
No, but he wanted to.
He wanted to. And what's the purpose of this?
I mean, he told me it was to be able to be forgiven, to like prove that I like love them, and I'm not sure. I'm sure it was to, you know, make me like embarrassed or make me like not like myself as much, because I do care a lot about my hair, and he very clearly knew that.
Like, I want to be a cosmetologist. So it was just one of those, like, you know, just like a jab at you.
So yeah, Onision very clearly has a strange and sexual obsession with baldness.
That looks so good on you. There's no shame in a big bald head.
But moving on from that, another one of the huge problems with them having as much sex as they did is that Shiloh would commonly contract and, you know, catch UTIs. This was definitely not helping with the pain that she would commonly experience. And at one point, she even ended up pregnant, which isn't surprising when you consider the amount of sex that they were having. Shiloh would then go on to suffer a miscarriage 5 weeks into one of these pregnancies, which she obviously was not very happy about. This led to a lot of crying. Onision did not like the fact that she was crying, so he forced her to sleep in the hallway whilst he took the bed. The doctors assured Shiloh that the miscarried fetus would naturally sort itself out, which it didn't, and 12 weeks in, it was still not sorted and began to turn septic. Onision decides this would be the perfect time to break up with Shiloh because she was inconveniencing him too much with her small girl wee problems, and also because he really didn't want to pay or contribute to any of the medical costs, which, by the way, as someone who lives in the UK, the fact you would even need to pay for a procedure like that blows my fucking tiny mind. Onision then moved back to the US, Shiloh was still in Canada, and her parents sorted the medical costs out for her and she got the procedure done. Luckily, everything turned out okay in that regard, and all of a sudden, now that everything's sorted, Onision has the fucking audacity to try and get back with Shiloh. Shiloh, God bless her soul, is willing to get back with Onision and wants to get back with him because she's been trauma bonded, supposedly. Like, there's some Stockholm Syndrome shit going on here where she wants to return to him despite how fucking awful he's been to her. You have to remember that she's still very young, naive, and a big fan of him. Luckily, her mother hid her passport and made sure that this would never ever happen. And her dad, like any good dad would, by the way, wanted to kill Onision, like actually kill him, and made plans with the Canadian mafia to off him, basically. Unfortunately, that never happened, but Shiloh says that if her parents never stepped in to stop her from going back to him, she probably would have ended her own life out of, like, a pure depression, which I personally definitely don't find very difficult to believe. It must have been hell on earth. All of this is described in much greater and finer detail in the Chris Hansen interview, which I'll link in the description, by the way. Interestingly, by the way, the police have decided to recently investigate this incident despite the fact that it happened decades ago at this point. Well, not decades, but a while ago. This report was made by Shiloh's mother, who very understandably wants to seek retribution for the awful shit that Onision has done to her daughter. As you can see, Onision's government name at the time is put on the subject involved section. I don't know if his name is Daniel now. He keeps changing it, like he's changed it so many times, genuinely, but the Gregory seems to have stayed consistent. The report itself is also very consistent with the story that we've been told. Shrem advised that Blank has recently been in contact with a man that she met via the internet, Gregory J. Daniel, hosts his own YouTube webcast channel and is alleged to be a self-described cult leader. Yeah, that's a whole other thing, by the way. Onision started a cult before he was even, like, popular. He just has this deep desire to be loved and admired by people, and I'm guessing part of this is so that it's easier to exploit those people. It's interesting because I myself have seen my numbers on the YouTube channel go up rather quickly, and with that comes a fair amount of praise, and I've actually been recognized out in public a couple times already. And there is a certain part of being recognized and liked by people that sort of taps into that narcissistic side that every human being has. But what separates people like me from people with Onision is that whilst yes, everyone does have those narcissistic tendencies that enjoy that sort of acknowledgement, Onision, like many other celebrities, are straight up narcissists who not only enjoy it but crave it. They seek it and they want to use it against people. Anyway, Shram stated that since Blank has been in contact with Daniel, her behaviors and interests have changed. Shram fears that if Blank establishes a relationship with Daniel, she will lose focus on her career and will never likely be heard from again. Daniel publishes his webcasts under the pseudonym Onision and hosts a series on YouTube called Onision Speaks. Also, it turns out this was decades ago. It was 13 years ago. I guess better late than never, but fucking hell, it's a matter of time. I'm glad it's happening. I'm glad that it's actually happening, but fuck me, it really should have happened a while ago. So with all this predatorial shit that's going on, Chris Hansen gets involved somewhere around this point. So Chris Hansen eventually ended up making a whole 4-part documentary series on Onision, and this was awful, as I stated earlier, but we'll get onto that just a tiny bit later, because first we should cover the most famous part of Chris Hansen's involvement, which was the To Catch a Predator style video that he made confronting Onision at his front door. The video in question is a 911 recording of Onision calling the police and asking them to come over and arrest Chris Hansen for, I guess, invading his private property or stalking him or something or the other.
I just saw like 6 guys in my driveway, and one of them is knocking on my door.
Okay, 1 second here. And the one that's knocking on your door, is he the main one that you said has been stalking you?
Yes, he's a stalker. He's yelling things at me through the door right now.
He's yelling things at you through the door. He's literally stood there knocking on the door with his hands in his pockets like the most polite wee boy ever. He looks as though he's being told off by his mom. He's not shouting anything, man.
Okay, and what do we know his name at all?
It's Chris Hansen.
Okay, H-A-N-S.
This is a part of internet history right here. I will never ever get over the way that he says it's Chris Hansen, because there's a bit of a hesitation there as he realizes how fucking ridiculous he sounds. Because at this point, the 911 dispatcher is probably thinking, oh, he's one of the predators who Chris Hansen's catching, and yeah, he's trying to save his ass, basically. But the way he just says it's Chris Hansen, it's like, it's just peak comedy. This whole saga right here is one of the funniest parts of the Onision lore, by the way, because as you can imagine, he was pissed, fucking livid, irate that Chris Hansen came to his gaff to try and, like, catch him. Additionally, he was also really angry at a lot of the YouTubers who were trying to expose him, making videos on him for being a predator at this point. The most popular of which was someone who goes by the name of Mr. Rebzion, who is a YouTube OG and will be important to the story a bit later on as well. Now, Onision's anger led him to sue Mr. Rebzion and Chris Hansen, which already sounds like a brilliant idea. Like, how could this ever go wrong? And in one of the most famous memes in internet history, he decided to turn up to court looking like this. I mean, he looks like a randomized fucking Sims character, for God's sake. And as everybody pointed out, the clothes don't even fit him. And what's even more hilarious, and something that not a lot of people know, this here is the exact same outfit that he wore to his wedding with a high schooler. And the best part is, that's not even the best part. For those who know about the situation, you know what I'm gonna say, but for those who don't, boy, are you in for a treat. So in his attempt to sue Chris Hansen, he Googled Chris Hansen's name on Google, I guess. He went on to find the address associated with Chris Hansen and then used that address to issue the legal notice that they were in fact being sued. As it turns out, he did no analysis or seek any verification that this Chris Hansen was the Chris Hansen that he actually was targeting. So he ended up suing a random bloke that had nothing to do with the situation who just so happened to be called Chris Hansen. And he was so embarrassed by this that he just walked out the courtroom, ended the lawsuit, and went to his fucking room, started crying, and never mentioned it again. It is one of the most embarrassing lawsuits and legal situations in internet history. And unfortunately for him, one of the most famous as well. Okay, so we'll talk about the documentary now, Onision in real life. The only good thing, in my opinion, that actually came out of this Chris Hansen documentary was that YouTube removed Onision from the YouTube Partner Program, which for those who don't know is the way that YouTubers get paid. So Onision is indefinitely unable to make money directly from ad revenue or just YouTube in general. Now that's a good thing. That is the one good thing that came out of this documentary, but the rest is really shitty. Like, Chris Hansen is not a good bloke at all, in my opinion. Most of the victims of Onision that spoke to Chris Hansen were, albeit okay with being put on the YouTube channel, but they did not consent to having themselves publicized and profited off of to the extent that they were in the final documentary. In fact, a lot of them explicitly said that they did not want to be used for profit, which is all they ended up being used for. And Chris Hansen explicitly said to them, oh, don't worry, I won't make a documentary about it, it'll just be in the YouTube video, that's all it's being used for. He lied. He straight up lied to the victims that he supposedly is supposed to care about, and he's doing it for them, supposedly. But I guess he wasn't. It's all for himself. As long as he can make money off of their trauma and their stories, he's a happy bunny. The only one who was okay with being in the documentary was Shiloh, which is why she plays such a big part in it in comparison to everyone else. The second awful thing that Chris Hansen did with this documentary was not turn in evidence that could have got Onision arrested or prosecuted properly. Sarah had given Chris Hansen a laptop with all the evidence of all the conversations that they ever had, and Chris Hansen told her, oh, I'm going to hand this into the police and we're going to get some justice here. He never handed it into the police. The laptop was sitting about in some office somewhere for months, not given to any form of authority. Now, I don't know what that tells you, but what it tells me is that Chris Hansen doesn't actually fucking care about justice and getting predators put in jail. All he cares about is making a profit off of them and, I guess, initiating and pseudo-moralistic acts that make him seem to be a good guy. He comes across as a lot more narcissistic nowadays than a lot of people give him credit for. Here are some tweets from Sarah saying that she was lied to and that the laptop was never sent into the FBI. It's been sitting in an office for New York for months with me thinking it was with the police. That's awful. That is genuinely fucking awful. There was a real chance here to get real justice and retribution for all the people that Onision has fucked over in his life, and Chris Hansen didn't take it. He couldn't be bothered, I guess. Anyway, we'll move on to the next major controversy now, which is involving Onision's children. Yes, by the way, he does have children. Children that he didn't seem to be too happy about when his wife was pregnant, by the way.
Shook. So shook. I was like, what? This makes no sense. So I was like freaking out. I went and told Greg. Greg's response is, congratulations, do you want a hug? I was like, you realize this is like your child too. Like, we are not co-workers here.
But all that aside, yes, he does have 2 children, and I'll give him credit for one thing. He never showed these children online, which is good. In fact, it's very good, especially in a situation like this where their parents are predators. Like, imagine how much of an effect that would have had on them. Everyone would look at them and know immediately, without having even spoken to them, that their parents are predators. So it's a good thing that their faces were not put online by Onision and Kai. What isn't a good thing is that Onision's daughter, at 2 years old, fell out of a window and almost died. What also isn't good is this tweet that Onision made about it shortly after, saying, my stupid bitch 2-year-old daughter just ran into a wall and started crying. I threw a beer bottle at her and mocked her for costing me money. Once again, another bit of classic comedy from the Onision household. But the story in question that went viral was Onision's daughter falling off of a 2-story building, by the way, and cracking her head open. Instead of coming to the aid of his daughter or trying to help in any way, Onision's response was to get a camera out and start vlogging the whole thing, recording his daughter who has almost died and the aftermath and the environment around him as an attempt to prove that this was an accident and he did not chuck his daughter out the window. I think that the very fact his first instinct wasn't to help his child says a lot about his character and how sociopathic he probably is. Here's the official police report with a bunch of intimate details blacked out and replaced with paraphrasing. James said that while waiting for the ambulance, he took a video showing the aftermath of the accident. I asked James why he took the video. James said he wanted to be able to show the doctor the aftermath of the accident. By the way, I guess at this point in time, Onision's name was James Gregory, and expressed concern about the health of his child in relation to the accident. He also said that he thought about needing to show the police what happened and spoke about an incident in 2011 when a friend threatened to kill herself and make it look like he was responsible, so he took a video of himself calling 911 so he could show the police he was not responsible. James's explanation for why he took a video seems strange to me. There's also this great excerpt at the end which says, James Jackson called 911 and reported that an accident occurred involving one of his children. Deputy Grote said that he had been out to the residence before to assist Child Protective Services in checking the children due to concerns that James ran a YouTube channel with content about child molestation. Just fucking incredible. Just incredible, isn't it? It really never gets any better with this man. Obviously, after his daughter almost died, they did end up going to the hospital, where Onision proceeded to horny post on Twitter about his sexual urges in the hospital room with his almost dead 2-year-old daughter a mere meter away from him or so. I want to ride you unprotected. I want to see your eyes quiver as you realize I just made you a mummy. I want to ride you unprotected. I want to see your eyes as you realize you've become a mum. He responded to a tweet saying, what position do you want Onision to fuck you in? Doggy it is, slut. This is whilst he's in the hospital with his child, by the way. I don't know if I can make that any more clear. There's a bunch more, by the way. I'll show them on screen right now. I'm not reading all of these out because I don't want to, you, and this is my fucking channel, and I saw a fan edit of me the other day, which I appreciated. Thank you very much for that. It's very kind of you, but I do not want me saying these tweets in any edit or any soundbite or anything of the fucking sort. I need to be cautious now that my words actually hold meaning. There's also a bunch of other alleged child mistreatment from Onision, but I'll let this TikToker explain a bunch of those. Her name is Maya Papaya. They are incredible, by the way. They made researching this video so much easier because she's been documenting Onision's behavior for actual years now.
There's also a lot of speculation that Onision greatly prefers his son over his daughter, which would make sense to me seeing how he's treated so many women in the past. Greg once said that while his daughter was learning to speak, that he didn't see a point in talking to her because she couldn't hold a conversation and basically refused to talk to her. Kai/Lucas told Sarah, who is a victim of Onision as well, that they were worried about the treatment of their daughter. That Onion Boy would not treat their daughter well because of his treatment of women. I'm not going to be revealing the name of his daughter, but his daughter is named after his book characters. If you guys don't know, Onision's written a couple of shitty books. The main character in these books is a self-insert of Onision. Both the characters that he named his daughter after, he has slept with in the book in this series, which is really fucking creepy. For some reason, Onision regularly goes and gets their names legally changed. I'm talking about his daughter and his son and their last name. Like, he just keeps changing them for some reason. There also used to be a video on Lucas/Kai's channel where they're eating Taco Bell. You can clearly hear Onision screaming in the background along with the sound of crying kids. Also, according to Lucas/Kai, the boy that they have has rage issues. Gee, I wonder where he saw that. Everything about it is so bad. I also would not be surprised if they'd been exposed to inappropriate stuff.
He even actually made a skit where he pantomimes throwing his daughter off of the 2-story building, basically making fun of and degrading the whole situation, because in his mind he must think, ooh, if I make fun of the fact that I treated my daughter horribly, maybe people will think that it's just a joke and I didn't actually do it.
To dry you off even faster is if I gave you some more air. So here you go, sweetie. Daddy loves you. There you go. Daddy loves you.
Onision, this is not 8 Mile by Eminem. You cannot just expose dark secrets from your past with the expectation that now nobody can criticize you for said secrets. Especially when it's not really a secret, it's public information. Everybody knows that you're a horrible father. Okay, now that we've covered a bunch of the big controversies that everybody knows about, we'll go over some of the smaller, I guess I say smaller. When I say small controversies, these are enough to end basically anybody's career, but for Onision standards, they are a bit smaller than the other ones. And when we're done going over these, we're going to talk about Onision's return to the internet and how pathetic it is. So Onision, in an obviously now deleted video of him raging about his ex-girlfriend, which he did a lot, by the way, there's a lot of videos of him doing that, he was talking about how much of a slut he thought his ex-girlfriend was, and he says, and I quote, that because his ex-girlfriend slept with more than 20 people before she was with him, she is a slut and therefore cannot be. That's really funny, he says over his ex-girlfriend's statement that she felt forced to have sex with him. That's funny coming from someone that has slept with over 20 people, someone who is a slut. So the ex-girlfriend in question here is one of many that Onision coerced into having sex with him. And his response, instead of denying the allegations, he says that it is impossible for her to be coerced or raped or manipulated into doing anything because she's a slut. Once again, I don't think I need to tell you how fucked up that is, and if I do, leave the channel. I don't want you here. Now, because of this incident, Onision was rightly banned from VidCon, which sadly means he'll never be able to dance around in a fucking banana costume like he so wants to. But he went mental on Twitter. He just started moving mad talking about, if you want someone to blame for my absence, you can blame the haters who spammed VidCon with anti-Onision mail, plus VidCon itself for giving in to the pressure and going back on their word. This is a trend with Onision, by the way. He never ever takes any responsibility for any of his awful actions, and this is something we'll come to find out later as well, because everything with Sarah, Shiloh, Sky, Kai, nothing. He thinks he's done nothing wrong. To this day, he sticks with the narrative that he was raped by all these people and that he did not do anything wrong to any of them. I am not going to VidCon. I will not put up with their blatant dishonesty. Well, you're not going to VidCon, but not because you won't put up with their dishonesty. It's because you were fucking banned. Like, you can't quit your job when you've already been fired, my friend. This is like those men who, they start going bald and then they just shave their hair off and say that it was their choice. Was it, or did you just accelerate the process? There's nothing wrong with going bald, by the way. I should make that clear before it starts happening to me. I was just making a joke, people. Onision was also banned from Patreon after doxing one of the girls that he lived with. This girl was called Billy, and we've talked about her briefly earlier. She was the girl who lived with Onision and Kai before Sarah had moved in. She was also the girl who was dating Kai, and then Onision coerced her into a sexual relationship, which caused Billy to cheat on Kai, I guess. It's a very sticky situation, but part of the reason that Onision wanted Sarah in the house to begin with was so that Kai could date Sarah whilst Onision shagged Billy, I guess. But he ended up acting sexually towards both of them at the end of it, so it's all mad, it's all mad. And so much shit happened that it's very difficult to come up with an exact timeline. But anyway, Onision ended up doxing Billy after Billy came out on Twitter, posting screenshots and alleging him of sexual misconduct, which at this point, they're not even allegations, like he did conduct in sexual misconduct. But Onision will never take anything on the chin and take responsibility or accountability like we've just mentioned, so his mature and adult response to Billy exposing him was to dox Billy's phone number, which went against Patreon's terms of service, and so yeah, Patreon banned him. Before the ban, Onision had 560 supporters on Patreon, by the way, so this was a big blow for him financially, especially because I'm assuming that those tiers weren't just $1 tiers. Onision is not that humble or not money hungry. I'll tell you what Patreon owner would never dox their patrons. Me, baby. Subscribe to my Patreon. For only £3, you can join the Patreon-only Discord where I'm in voice chat very regularly. I'll probably be in voice chat as I'm editing the next video. So if you want to join, it's a fun community to be a part of, so give it a shot. Another thing about Onision is despite being a huge animal rights guy and big vegan or vegetarian, I'm not too sure which one, but he loves animals, right? So much so to the point where in apocalypse movies or movies where a lot of humans are being killed, he says that he feels no sympathy because those people eat meat. Despite all this, he is a terrible pet owner and killed his turtle once. There's a picture here of a plastic box turned upside down with his turtle underneath it in the flaring hot American sun, by the way, where he says, I put Reptar in this plastic tub outside so he could enjoy the sun without the dogs bugging him, and I went to check on him a few hours later, only to find out he died. Sad face. He's a desert turtle, so it wasn't the heat, and he had air. We're just bummed out now. I'm sorry, Reptar. Are you sure it wasn't the heat? I'm not a vet, to be fair. I'm not a veterinarian, but I do think it was the heat. You don't need to be a doctor to know that if you get shot, you'll probably end up dying, or at the very least, hurting quite a bit. Here's yet another rather infamous clip.
So they left the baby, and I refused to change the diaper because I felt like it was inappropriate to change other people's kids, right? And this is the same chick who, you know, implied I was some kind of pervert. So... So she's like, hey, pervert, why won't you look at my kid's junk? It's just like, I don't want to go anywhere near your kid. I don't want to touch their... Ugh.
There is nothing perverted. Again, hot take here, perhaps, but there is absolutely nothing perverted, from a sane person's mind at least, about changing a baby's diaper, or nappy, we call them here. Especially when you consider that the story he's telling is about a close friend's baby as well. It's not just a stranger. If I had a baby and I handed it over to a close friend of mine, I would be more angry if they let the baby fester in its own shit and feces as opposed to just changing their fucking nappy like a responsible adult. You cannot claim to not be a pervert because you didn't want to look at a baby's genitals. Fuck me! Jesus Christ, dude! But look, all of this controversy aside, at least Onision isn't racist.
What you're doing by taking a word that mostly white supremacists use and making it so everyone says it is making it like white supremacists aren't as abominable.
That's Onision talking about the N-word. Wow, what a respectable and nice man. I mean, you know, he's groomed children. He rates underage girls' bodies on his YouTube account, but at least he doesn't say the N-word.
Fuck you, Nick. Who freed, fought, and died to free the slaves? It was white people. You don't even realize that the reason there are no longer slaves today, specifically of certain skin colors, is because the majority of white people are against that kind of thing.
Onision, you do realize that you are literally spouting the same sort of rhetoric that members of, I don't know, the Ku Klux Klan also spout?
If it wasn't for the white man fighting for you, you'd still be picking cotton in the field. That's what you'd be doing. if it wasn't for a white man fought for you.
Not to mention, it's just historically inaccurate as well. I don't mean to make this one another history lesson like the last video, but just a brief sort of factoid for those who don't know, which, by the way, you should know. This should be like a big part of American history in every school. But anybody who thinks that the reason slavery ended was because people didn't like it on a moral level is misinformed, to say the least. One of the big reasons that slavery ended is because unpaid labor doesn't produce labor that's as good. People tend to work better when they're, you know, paid. So part of the reason that slavery ended was practical. Like, purely practical. If those slaves were producing work that was as good or better than people who were being paid to do the same thing, slavery would have ended a lot later than we like to admit. It did not end because of the merciful white people who just wanted to see the ownership of souls be diminished.
Wing wong ting tong, bada bada bing bong. That's not even Asian. It's like dirt language.
Dirt language? That's my mother tongue, you fucker! Arabic's a beautiful language. I don't give a fuck what anyone says. It's got like a rich history, so much cultural significance. Arabic is a fucking beautiful language. I will not hear any slander.
Highly braided, whatever. First of all, pretty sure she doesn't spend 7 hours a day braiding that. Pretty sure she doesn't even necessarily wash that. And I know that I'm not attracted to that. More attracted to something like this. Something that you feel more inclined to believe that she prepped that today. And that there's a good chance that that doesn't smell like dead rats. Unlike probably haven't washed my hair in 4 years girl over here.
Just fucking awful, man. Like that, he is literally stereotypical white guy talking about black women's hair. Oh, you don't wash that very often, do you? Fuck off. Shut up. Kill yourself. Next up is a video of Onision blatantly mocking eating disorders, namely Eugenia Cooney's eating disorder. Eugenia Cooney, for those who don't know, is a girl who was very famous a few years ago, basically for being very skinny and not eating a lot and very clearly having an eating disorder. And then Onision, in very good taste, puts a video like this out.
Hi, I'm Eugenia Cooney and I'm doing a cooking show. But first I'm gonna eat something on camera to prove to you guys that I do eat. Here are some cucumbers. Are you ready for me to prove you guys wrong, Freely the Banana Girl and Onision? I love cucumbers. See, I love food. So good for my tummy. So today I'm gonna cook some stir fry. We'll start out by grabbing a bit. I did it! Gotta grab the pan. By the way, check out my outfit of the day.
Onision was someone who was in contact with Eugenia regularly at this point as well, so, I mean, way to fucking make her feel good or help her with her issue, her life-threatening issue here. I honestly don't even know if this deserves to be put in this section where I go over the smaller controversies, because I'm getting angrier and angrier more as I think about it. Like, this is truly disgusting. I made a joke earlier on in the video about how, like, people who complain about YouTube having changed are a little bit delusional, and, I think this is just more evidence to support that argument, because something like this would never fly on YouTube now. It would never fly on YouTube now. And I love that. That's a really good thing. Okay, it's finally time for what you've all been waiting for. Onision's pathetic return to the internet. But before that, we'll go over his YouTube description from like right before he came back. Onision was an entertainer who dedicated over a decade of his life to entertaining his fans, campaigning for equality among genders, animal rights, infant rights, women's rights, and charities designed to feed the poor/hungry. He has literally listed every single group that he has fucked over royally in the past. I can't believe how unself-aware he is. Equality among genders. You said that a woman who has slept with 20 people is unable to be doesn't sound very equal to me. Animal rights. You literally killed your turtle. Infant rights. You horny posted whilst your daughter who almost died was in the hospital and you were meters away from her. Women's rights. I don't think I even need to say anything regarding that one. Onision loved dark comedy. Dark comedy is not making racist jokes about black people, my friend. That's just racist. Was a constant underdog in the YouTube community and represented those who were misunderstood and rejected by mainstream personalities. Do you think maybe the reason that those people were rejected was because they touched children? Seems like a pretty good reason to be rejected, in my opinion. He put his whole heart into his work, was genuine, and even when outspoken by millions, remained honest and true. Onision is gone now, but by thousands he will be remembered for his hundreds of songs, animal human rights, blah blah blah. It's the most self-indulgent pish that I've ever heard in my life. There is no sympathy, there is no self-awareness, and there is no accountability taken for any of his actions. And this can also be seen by his return YouTube description. Now we're finally entering the realm where he's come back. This is actually his YouTube description, by the way. Like, you can go on his channel and read it. YouTube demonetized Onision after he was... That's the first sentence of your channel description. You're meant to tell people, like, what your channel is about and, you know, what you do, the content you're gonna provide. This is not fit for a description. It's also just not true. It's what I said before about him taking no accountability. He genuinely believes he has done nothing wrong to anybody in his life, and the only people who have done wrong are the people who have fucked him over. And by fucked him over, I mean he did horrible things to them and they exposed that to the world. A woman named Sarah stated she could destroy Onision's life, and as a result, Onision asked Sarah to sign a document stating she could not lie about him. Sarah insisted she would only sign the document if she got what she wanted, and only if she could do stuff with him / his spouse. Knowing any lie she told would be believed by the ignorant masses online, he gave her whatever she demanded. It's so bad. It's like such awful excuses and untrue bollocks to save his ass. Onision being forced to sleep with someone created complicated thoughts / emotions. When Onision stopped making excuses for what Sarah was doing to him / his spouse, he told Sarah it was over, and she promptly apologized for Onision and his spouse, then apologized at the airport as well. Weeks after Sarah returned to home, she proceeded to destroying Onision's life as she threatened. YouTube quickly demonetized Onision, the victim, ended his ability to support his family as before. This is a narrative that he goes very in-depth in as, you know, we talk more about his return, so we'll talk about it more then. But long story short, it's all complete bullshit, as I'm sure you could guess. I know I'm getting angry here, but people who just take no fucking accountability after doing such awful things genuinely really pisses me off more than, like, pretty much anything else. So this is where a lot of the legal stuff starts, because Onision, in an attempt to, I guess, counteract a lot of the legal outbursts and lawsuits that he is about to be hit with, trying to file for bankruptcy, because in his mind that protects him legally from a lot of shit, which is a misconception that a lot of people have in America, especially regarding bankruptcy. It just screams, I know fucking nothing about the law and I'm doing a lot of things wrong here and I will do anything to save my ass preemptively. Or maybe he is genuinely just poor and ran out of money. I know he was doing DoorDash at one point because he got demonetized and is making fuck all money from YouTube and the internet because he has no fans and gets no views. But in this filing for bankruptcy, he lists 10 people who he believes to have wronged him and now owe him money. So he is trying to ruin the people who he believes to have ruined his career years ago. Some of these people include Mr. Rebzion, Shane Dawson, Chris Hansen, Sky, which is his ex-wife, Sky's sister, which I don't know what she fucking did to Onision, Billy, the one who got, you know, him banned from Patreon, Adrian, another one of his ex-partners, I guess his own father as well, his stepmother, Blair White, and The Social Repose. Now that's embarrassing enough as is, but what I find to be the funniest thing about this document is that, unlike everyone else, with Chris Hansen specifically, he lists his full legal name, including the middle name, to make absolutely sure he doesn't sue the wrong one this time, because he must be so fucking embarrassed that he sued the wrong one last time. I mean, look, you got Blair White, Shane Yu, Daniel Sulzbach, there's no, you know, middle names there, but for Chris, he has to go Christopher Edward Hansen. I mean, if there is one good thing to come out of Onision's awful actions, it's how fucking funny some of his, like, attempts to save his ass are. I don't know if he knows that anything he does in America regarding bankruptcy becomes public information. Like, part of me thinks he wouldn't have done all this if he thought it would become public so quickly. I mean, I wouldn't put it past him to be that much of a fucking idiot. Maybe he genuinely just does want the attention. Like, maybe he wants people to know that he is essentially suing everyone on this bankruptcy filing. We'll talk about the lawsuit a bit later on, but let's dive a bit deeper into his actual return to content. So as we've established, he has returned to his YouTube channel where he did a fun live stream which has no views in 2 weeks, by the way. Onision is genuinely one of the only people who has been successfully cancelled to a point where he actually has no fans left. Like, usually cancellations are overblown and over-dramatized, but no, Onision actually has no fans. Every view that he gets is morbid curiosity. Every view that he gets is people thinking, what the fuck is he gonna say? He's fucked. He's an awful individual and everyone knows this. What's gonna happen? It's all curiosity. No one actually likes his content now. Maybe part of the reason that he has no fans and his return to the internet via the TikTok app, having less than 10k followers, is because he posts videos like this.
Hey, Onision! Hi! Nobody likes you. Okay. Hey, Onision! No one likes you. No one likes you. Get off this platform. Nobody likes you.
This man is 40 years old, by the way. I think that's all I need to say. I'm sorry, if I'm at this point, when I'm 40 years old, if I'm at this point, I think I genuinely just would kill myself. Like, there's no reason to live anymore. This is all he does, by the way. He just posts videos of, I guess, a manifestation of his haters played by him saying that no one likes him anymore.
Hey, Onision.
Oh, hey.
I'm back.
I can see that.
You're never gonna get any followers or subscribers.
Oh god, not you too. Wait, what's happening right now?
Since I've been gone, you've been going downhill. Look what you did to the brand. Now we're a laughing stock.
He still makes videos as though it's 2010. I mean, at the very least, it's nostalgic, I guess. But the running trend in all of those return to TikTok videos is that he is portraying himself as like this nonchalant guy who doesn't let any of the hate get to him. He doesn't care that people don't like him anymore. He's just sat there going, yeah, man, cool. All good. Don't mind me. I'm just gonna get a drink of water and watch the show. However, as you can imagine, when he's actually confronted by real people and not just himself dressed like an idiot, he crumbles. He starts, no, but like, what I meant was, but then the reason I did this was, so what I mean, here's a video of him live streaming, and people are donating, by the way. Don't fucking do that. Do not donate to him. But anyway, here's a clip of him live streaming, and people are confronting him about the Rate My Body videos.
And you said that people could lie, so what's to stop me from kicking you
I never
right
said
now?
I lied. I'm just saying, like,
you lied.
You went as far as to go to my profile to confirm, right? So why didn't you go as far as to ask them for their IDs? And if they don't say yes, then just say no.
Because that's the rule.
And move on to the next person.
Well, actually, you can literally see, there's literally videos of me doing exactly
so what about the other videos of you rating minors?
Yeah, if anyone watching this, again, if anyone watching this wants to go to onision.com/framed, you can actually see me going through confirming people's ages on multiple videos.
So all your videos?
Yeah.
Not all your videos.
Girls were over 18 in the Rate My Bodies.
Well, a lot of the videos are like, you know, like not relevant to anything that would need that.
You're rating their bodies.
Like,
he's fumbling. He's absolutely fumbling. The silences give it all away. He sat there talking about, oh, some of the videos didn't require the people to be 18 years old. Yes, they fucking do! They do! You cannot put girls' half-naked bodies on the internet whilst you talk about them in any capacity, even if it's positive, unless they're over the age of 18. And to be honest, it's not something you should be doing anyway, even if they were fucking 60 years old.
the forums were not a body rating forum. It was
Sure,
a
but
forum
I'm
about
particularly
what
talking
video
about
should I make
the
next.
rating videos that you used to do.
And you had, the problem was that you had like,
Here's a comment I found that describes the issues with everything that he says perfectly, by the way. He only had an age rule after he did it once or twice and people said something. It's on the way back machine. He didn't mention any sort of age rule at first. People told him they were underage and he was fine with it. His spouse did the same type of video later and actually put a 16-year-old limit. 16, not 18. Despite him claiming there being a rule the whole time about age, there wasn't at first, he knowingly featured minors and did not get parents' permission to feature them. I don't know the legal implications of this and I genuinely don't care. I just know this is scummy behavior. Lots of very scummy stuff is legal, and we as a society get to band together to call them out and make it more difficult for that person to continue in their scummy ways. It's not perverted, it's honest. He said it himself. He doesn't care if someone who submits a picture is actually underage. He doesn't care about the safety of young people. He pretends he'll rate underage girls whose age he actually might not know, but he's an absolutist when it comes to honesty. Honesty is so rigid to to him when it benefits him, but he seemingly knows how to keep his lips tight when it comes to his family. So he understands that honesty isn't actually rigid and that there are other facets of life to consider. There is more honesty than just spouting a fact, and he at least subconsciously knows this. He just doesn't offer that same rational thinking to minors who he seemed to be drawn to. An underage girl's family asked him to remove their daughter/sister from a video. He didn't until years later when he mass deleted everything. By the way, that girl in particular, I'm not going to show the video even blurred, like I just don't want that on my channel, was 11 years old. 11 years old. And it was one of those like skinny or fat videos, and unfortunately for her, Onision called her fat. Onision called her Shrek even. Those were his exact words. And it was genuinely just an 11-year-old's body with like an emoji over her face or some shit. It is unheard of. Like the level of... Oh my god, I'm actually fucking raging thinking about it.
The wetlands in the back of your property that allegedly you destroyed?
What this viewer is referring to are the wetlands at the back of Onision's house at the time. I think the council, or whatever they're called in America, told Onision, hey man, we have a problem with the wetlands at the back of your property, or something like that. There was some sort of issue going on. And Onision, the, reasonable adult he is, went to the back garden and just destroyed all the wetlands, which was a big mistake because apparently wetlands are very protected in the state that he's in, and he had to pay damages for it. This is his response to that question.
Not only did I pay for many restoration projects for the future for the county, $14,000, but I also hand-built a fence to protect the wetlands, and then I planted wetlands. So I'm actually better
Did you also kill
than the people who criticize me, because the people who criticize me have never contributed $14,000 to the World and Wildlife, whatever.
Okay, so first of all, it's county, not council. I'm too British for this shit. But secondly, all of those things that he's saying he did so proudly were legal obligations given to him by said county because he destroyed so many fucking wetlands. So he's saying it here as though he's done everyone a favor and it wasn't a legal obligation and him doing what he was told to by the county to make up for the laws that he broke. I also love that you can hear very faintly a viewer ask in the background, hey, didn't he kill his tortoise as well?
Didn't you also kill
Then the people who criticize
He conveniently decides to skip over that bit and just ignore it because there really isn't any defending that like.
Because I also remember this, the tax fraud allegations. What is that?
Oh yeah, the IRS.
Oh, you mean the $500,000 I had to pay them?
So was it
But isn't that legally,
evasion?
like breaking the law, and you're so against breaking the law? So like, isn't
No, we had disagreements about what was a deduction.
okay? But like, you should know for your job what's a deduction or not. I feel like you probably.
No, I stand by it. I stand by my deductions. All my deductions were completely and utterly valid. You should talk to the IRS sometime. They're interesting
I don't like the
individuals.
IRS.
I have a professional do all my taxes now.
So what he's referring to here is the tax evasion that he was also accused, not just accused of, he was actually fined for this. $500,000, in fact, that he had to pay to the IRS because he wasn't doing his taxes correctly. But he claims that the work-related expenses that he was claiming to be tax-free were in fact work-related expenses that should be tax-free, and that he was slighted by the IRS unfairly. Now, for those watching who know anything about taxes, especially when you're self-employed, might think that it was an honest mistake and that he just made some fuck-ups. Like maybe he bought some clothes that he thought were tax deductible because he was wearing them on camera and the IRS didn't really buy that. But no, the tax deductible expenses that he chose were nappies, or diapers in America, a wedding ring, and the divorce procedure, which I don't know how you can make the claim that those are work-related expenses, but alas, Onision did and was thereby committing tax evasion, or tax fraud, whatever you want to call it. I think it's tax fraud, not evasion. It's a pretty boring crime in comparison to the rest of his shit, but just another crime to add to the list.
Just like any site, you say, hey, here's the rules, and if somebody's going to be a fraud, that's a personal choice that they made that they should be held accountable for.
Okay,
because
with
they
having
lied.
a public video on
And
YouTube
again, it's
with
appropriate
a
for all
minor.
audiences. It's all audiences. Literally all audiences. Like, it's supposed to be appropriate for all audiences. So you're telling me that I should feel bad for having a website that is appropriate for all audiences, where people are told that they should be adults submitting content for all audiences on this site. So nothing inappropriate. You're telling me I should feel bad for having all these checks and balances, and for years, everyone in the audience being fine with it. People overwhelmingly liking those videos. Even my ex, like one or two of my exes was in the videos doing it themselves because they too knew there was nothing wrong with them. And then a new generation comes along and they're like, you know what, let's go ahead and turn this thing that wasn't anything into
I feel
something.
it was a different time and you have a different audience. Like when I watched you, I was a minor, and watching you rate other people's bodies made me feel like, hey, maybe I should submit a photo or something. No, I did
You felt
not
like lying,
submit
like,
anything.
and
I'm
I'm
just
to
saying,
blame
like,
if-
you had a younger audience. That's it.
Okay. I just hate that I have to be blamed for other people being dishonest. That sucks ass.
Maybe you shouldn't have given those other people so much power to ruin you if they were dishonest, or potentially make it so that you're engaging in some horrifically immoral, illegal shit. You can't pass blame to those minors who probably don't know any better. It's your website, it's your series that you decided to start on YouTube, and you decided to not have any credible verification checks in. This is just a complete deflection of responsibility, and once again, another example of the fucking thing he does that really pisses me off, where he can't take any fucking accountability or responsibility for any of his horrific actions in the past. I haven't heard one sorry from Onision, ever. Ever! And I know that if he ever was to say it, it would be completely dishonest. And now that he's in a whole legal debacle, he'll never say sorry because it would be an admission of guilt or some fucking shite like that.
I saw someone blaming ED on me not too long ago. So let's see what my real thoughts were on people eating.
Please be careful with your weight. Don't starve yourself. Eat healthy food. What you put in your body is an investment. So what is too fat? Too fat is simply the result of eating things that threaten your health. The time for being mad at fat people for being fat, it needs to come to an end.
You have exactly the same diet as I do, but are still obese. That doesn't make you any less than me. In fact, if anything, that makes us equal.
If you're healthy, you're not fat.
All you should really be concerned with is whether or not your significant other is still attracted to you, and whether or not your doctor says you're healthy.
Regardless whether you're heavy, skinny, or whatever. Hope you have a wonderful day. 3 meals a day, no sugary beverages. Fat, skinny, somewhere in the middle. I don't care what you cosplay as. You just keep being you.
Fat guys, fat chicks, skinny chicks, they can all be beautiful.
Just take care of yourselves.
I think eating healthy and taking care of yourself isn't on the whole ED spectrum.
No, but I'll tell you who was on the eating disorder spectrum. Eugenia Cooney. It honestly shocks me that you had the audacity to even record this video and claim that you did not make fun of or infantilize the concept of eating disorders at all, as though they were something to be mocked, when you have a 5-minute video of you basically bullying a girl who had anorexia. And not only that, but to the point of genuine life-threatening status. You fucking prick. You prick. You prick. You don't even deserve the time of day, let alone a platform to speak up about how right you were in the past, or how you're innocent, or how you're actually a victim. Go fuck yourself. Okay, so currently there is a lawsuit happening, the updates of which can be found on Mr. Rebzion's channel, who is updating everyone regarding every step of the situation. So if you want to know the really nitty-gritty, in-depth details, then go to his channel. It's definitely the best place to find those. The lawsuit, stripped down to its most basic form, is basically Sarah versus Onision and Kai, and then Google and YouTube are in there as well for allegedly platforming and allowing these creators to have the platform to groom these children, as well as enable alleged sex trafficking, which, yeah, I mean, I do believe under the legal definition of that crime, it is being committed, or it was being committed, by Onision and Lucas. Lucas, by the way, is Kai's new name after she's transitioned into a man, I guess. Okay, I'll be honest, this day one trial sort of thing here that they do on Zoom, I think, fuck all happened. Nothing actually happened. It's just the judge complaining for like 35 minutes that no one can get their shit together.
When did the Regina case arrive from Florida to the Northern District of California?
One moment. It was transferred in October of 2023.
Okay, so, and when did the Sarah case arrive from Michigan and end up in my court?
It would have been around the same time, but I'll confirm for you. October of 2023, Your Honor.
And so these two cases have been sitting in our court for a year, and nobody has notified us of the two related cases that are here in our
Well,
court.
it's not that simple.
And because of that, the rest of the trial is being delayed to a point where everyone can get their stuff sorted correctly. It is pretty obvious that Onision and Lucas are texting each other though. Like Onision will smirk at points, look down, start texting, and then Lucas will then look down at his phone as well. I personally believe that the two are actually in the same room because their backgrounds look very, very, like, suspiciously similar. They were never called out on this, though. However, shit has gotten really complicated from this point because Onision has filed a countersuit against Sarah based on the grounds of a phone call that Sarah, initiated with him back in August of this year, where Sarah called Onision up and started moving mad.
Hey guys, in Washington State, you can record phone conversations if you're capturing a crime. Harassment is a crime. Fraud is a crime. Rape is a crime. There's a number of things that Sarah has done that is a crime. She thinks that you won't believe a single thing I say because of my age and gender. That's her entire position. She doesn't understand that when you're an adult, you're an adult, you're an adult, you're an adult. She thinks that for some reason the entire world is ageist and sexist, and that because of that, she can just do whatever she wants to anyone and no one will believe anyone but her. So because I captured Sarah's admissions, because she is a criminal, I can finally present to you one of the many conversations that we had in the past, which she is probably going to crap herself, realizing that when she called me at 6 a.m., she was in fact recorded. Oh boy. This is what I've been going through. And this is the person that you guys supported and believed instead of me.
Okay, so to be brutally honest, this was an incredibly stupid thing for Sarah to do. The last thing you do during a lawsuit with someone is to call the person that you're suing, let alone tell that person that you want cancer to take their dick off, which is what Sarah told Onision in this phone call, by the way. That being said, don't get me wrong, I can't imagine what emotions are stirring through Sarah's mind being in such close contact with somebody who did what they did to her. Like, I'm not even gonna pretend that I know what that's like by any means. It's like those time travel movies where the number one rule is to not interact with yourself in the past. Sarah has gone and broken that really important rule that will change everything, likely. Maybe not in this case, though, because there is just so much evidence against Onision, and Onision knows fuck all about the law. Onision is milking this phone call for everything that he can, though. Unfortunately, well, fortunately, to be fair, everything he can is a lot less than he thinks it is in terms of worth. Like, he thinks there's a lot more protection for him legally here than there actually is. For example, he claims that Sarah wanting his dick to fall off is a threat, which has no legal standing whatsoever. A threat is very legally specific, and she's not gonna come over and blast you with like 1,000 rays of gamma radiation or shove 100 ciggies up your arsehole. Is she?
Why are you laughing?
Dude, I was a fucking kid.
You were an adult, Sarah. Okay, Sarah, you're an adult. You can't say that.
I was a fucking teenager. I was a teenage girl. You're almost 40, dude. Get a hold of your life.
You just said that you were a teenager and I was 40.
By the way, something that's very important for you to know is that Onision thinks he's Ted fucking Bundy, because he is representing himself in this case, which is why Sarah's phone call, as dumb as it was, doesn't even worry me that much, because there's no way a moron like Onision is gonna actually do anything with it without a good lawyer. Onision would need the best lawyer in the... He'd need some O.J. Simpson type shit to get away with what he's done. In the countersuit, he places so much emphasis on these tweets that Sarah made years ago, like that's supposed to prove anything. These tweets involve Sarah admitting to taking drugs like once or twice and selling her prescription, like that's supposed to prove fucking anything, like that has anything to do with the case at hand, and like he doesn't have at least 1 million bigger skeletons in his closet, and like any good judge would sit there with all this evidence against Onision in front of him to look at those tweets that fucking Sarah put out 10 years ago, those 3 tweets, and go, oh, Case closed. Everything Onision has done, with all the proof in the world, that's public. Who knows what they have privately? But with all that, it all needs to be put aside, put in the bin, case dismissed. Sarah took a drug 10 years ago. You fucking idiot, Onision. That's not how it works. You fucking idiot. You're so dumb. You're so goddamn stupid. It's unbelievable. You've committed several acts of child sex trafficking, and your best defense is that one of your victims did a drug once in a tweet. He also makes the claim that the phone call that Sarah, called him with on August 7th was a threat to his life because she wished that he got cancer or something. Now, not only have I already established that it does not count as a real fucking threat, but also, if it was such a threat, why didn't you go to the police about it when she called you? If you really felt threatened for your life and you were scared to go outside and in case Sarah would blast you with 1,000 gamma rays, fucking Hulk style, why didn't you go to the police or call anyone there and then? Maybe you're not as scared as you're painting yourself out to be, because Sarah is a fucking wee girl who realistically can't really do anything to you, especially when she lives that far away from you geographically. And your main claim here is that she raped you when you were in your 30s and she was a young, small girl. Like she has the fucking capability to do anything of the sort, especially when you held all the power in that relationship. You were the influencer that she looked up to. You were the older one in the situation. You were her fucking foster parent. You had everything over her. It truly baffles me that you're acting in this manner. Like, I can't believe a human being like this exists. Now, like I said, if you want longer, more detailed updates on the situation, go to Mr. Repzion's YouTube channel. I'll link it in the description because it really is the best place to receive updates if you want to hear about Onision. And if you want more shortened versions, then go to the TikTok page that I talked about earlier because she is fucking incredible. Thank you again if she's watching this video. You made researching so much easier and convenient for me. On my end though, I think that's all I have to say about this situation. I genuinely believe that out of all the OG YouTubers, Onision is undoubtedly the most evil. I'm open to suggestions from you guys if you think otherwise though, but aside from all that, hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe as always. Thank you so much to my lovely patrons as always. The patrons really growing recently as well, and the Discord community is very happy and wholesome and healthy. So if you want to be a part of that, then join. Like I mentioned before, I'm in VC all the time, so if you want to have a chat, then give us a shout. And if you want extra content, by the way, I post patron exclusive videos for the £6 tier and above. Alright, I think I'm done now though, so I'll catch you all in the next video. Bye!